We're here because an all-new Jeep Wrangler is a rare thing to behold, one that arrives once in a decade at most. It is the rugged flag bearer of the Jeep brand, the SUV, and the most symbolically important vehicle Fiat Chrysler makes, which can only be properly showcased in the most extreme environments. It's also an anachronism, a holdover from a bygone era of vehicle making that, had it never existed previous, would never be approved by a responsible corporate board today. It also is the one vehicle in the world that could properly surmount this ridiculous obstacle, and the Jeep folks wanted to prove it. The Jeep Wrangler makes every bit of sense and none at all, and it must be accepted by a wildly devoted fan base that will tolerate no weakness. Fortunately for everyone involved, it doesn't have many faults. In fact, it has so few we might as well just get them out of the way. First, the clutch take-up on the 6-speed manual transmission is so vague even our office mates of JP and 4-wheel and off-road were stalling. Second, the V6 still feels a bit gutless at low RPM on pavement despite improvements. That about covers it. Back on that hillside, I was driving up to door Rubicon with the standard 3.6-litre V6 and optional 8-speed automatic. It makes the same 285 HP and 260 pounds-foot as before but gets better fuel economy and low-end torque. At crawling speeds and with 4-wheel drive gearing advantages, torque wasn't an issue. 2 days later, driving back into town in a heavier 4-door Rubicon Unlimited with the same engine but standard 6-speed manual, the lack of grunt was more apparent. The enormous improvement in ride quality was also more apparent on the road. Don't worry. It still drives like a truck, just one from this century. Moving the shocks farther outboard and raising the roll center have seriously reduced the head toss and impact harshness in everyday driving. Getting to the trail has never been so pleasant. Although you'll spend far more time on the road than the trail, we know you don't care about that part, so let's dive back into the mud. After lunch on the trail, it was a higher speed 2-track out to camp with one last river crossing to round things out. As if to drive the point of the new generation's excellence home, one of the previous generation Rubicon Unlimited support vehicles beached itself trying to climb out, right after the new ones drove right through. After a night of unexpectedly heavy snowfall and several collapsed tents, we ran for the shores of Lake Wanaka and out another 2-track toward Mount Aspiring National Park. On this day, I'd made a point of claiming the all-new 2.0-litre turbocharged 4-cylinder. It makes 268 HP and 295 pounds-foot and uses a belt alternator starter system that can take some load off the engine. This is the first 4-banger Wrangler in over a decade and an optional upgrade over the V6, so I had to know if it's any good. This would be the day to find out. We were headed for a boulder field at the base of Mount Aspiring. Available only with the 8-speed automatic, the Turbo 4 felt perfectly at home bumping along the track and down a stretch of paved road. The transmission, paired with either engine, continues to be a gem with quick, smooth gear shifts and a smart computer that always seems to know what gear it ought to be in. On road and off, the engine felt just as powerful as the V6, and its automatic start/stop system is among the smoothest on the market in any vehicle type. The real test, though, would be crawling. Our test bed was a boulder-strewn gully 10 feet deep and in places just wider than the Jeep's. I dropped our Rubicon Unlimited into full low, hit the switches to lock the front and rear differentials and disconnect the front anti-roll bar, and tiptoed in. I didn't air down the tires, though. The Jeep people were so confident in the Wrangler they wouldn't let us. Within 50 feet, every concern I had about power and turbo lag had been scraped away along with the paint on the factory rock rails. This little bugger crawls just as well as the V6. To be sure, I took another run in the other Rubicon Unlimited with the V6 and the manual. Were it not for the shifting, I could barely tell the difference in power delivery. Between the belt alternator starter and turbocharger, the 4-cylinder needed less revving to get the job done. Speaking of, bouldering with a stock manual transmission has never been easier. Jeep has upped the crawl ratio from 73:1 to 84:1 on the manual, and from 55:1 to 77:1 on the automatic, so it can creep along at a half mile an hour in first gear in 4 low without stalling. I only ever used the clutch to come to a complete stop while my spotters repositioned for the next obstacle. The sun and cold wind beating on my face, this was jeeping at its best. Tough trail, manual transmission, roof down, thankfully now a tidy 5-step process, and windshield down, now 2 wipers and 4 bolts, down from seeming dozens. We'd have taken the lightened doors off, too, if there were a place to put them. The included toolkit makes removing them and the windshield so easy you're effectively obligated to do so. The rock sliders thoroughly evaluated, I made one more run in the 2-door Rubicon. Grounded, the 4-door Unlimiteds went everywhere the 2-door went, but nothing makes a challenging trail easier than a shorter, lighter rig with a tighter turning radius. Regardless, the new 33-inch Goodrich all-terrain T/Eco 2 tires did a remarkable job at street pressure, and the extra inch of ground clearance afforded over the old 32-inch mud terrain T/A kilometers was welcomed. Off the rocks and back on the trail in the 4-cylinder, we popped out the hardtops, freedom panels, which are held on by simple latches now instead of 1.0 turn knobs. It made for a better vantage point standing up through the roof as we crisscrossed the noticeably deep Onatuckatee River's west branch. The 30-inch fording depth is engraved along with other stats on a panel on the inside of the tailgate for handy reference. The next morning, leaving camp with the worst obstacles behind us, I decided I needed more than a mere trail run with the manual transmission. It's a new unit with a shift linkage that has taken out most of the previous model's slop. Were it not for the funky clutch pedal, I'd have nothing to complain about. The gates are easy to find, and the throws are short enough for a truck.